Call to order the regular City Commission meeting of Tuesday, May the 14th, 2019. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amy, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Here.
Commissioner Perry? Here. Commissioner Scott?
Here.
Commissioner Wall? Here. Mayor Metzger?
Here. We're all here. First item on the agenda, public discussion items not on the agenda. Anybody has anything to bring forward? Come forward. Nobody's got anything. Okay, that was fun. All right. Next item, governmental reports. Now they're going to fight over who gets first.
Oh no, I'll defer.
Okay. Fair enough.
Hello, Mayor and Commissioners.
Hi.
I have a few things.
Okay.
So you're all probably aware of the big fire we had at 800 West 9, the courtesy cleaners on Good Friday. I've probably received 60 or 70 calls to my office from people that had property in there. They were trying to get their clothes retrieved and everything. Everything in there is destroyed from fire, but what I was telling people, and I'm telling the residents of Pleasant Ridge as well, if you have your service ticket, sometimes you can make a claim on your own homeowner's insurance, or you can keep that ticket and contact the owner, and his email is on the front of the building, and I can spell it out for you if you'd like. SSHIN3464@gmail.com. That's Mr. Sam Shin, and he'll be glad to answer any questions. Everything in there was a loss. It was after investigating the fire and getting the evidence back, and then conferring or talking to the other fire investigators for the insurance. It was spot on that it was a combustible rag fire from cooking oils. The rags were actually washed, and then they were dried. They were dried twice, and then repackaged, and then they caught fire.
Wow.
So that happened a couple of years ago at a couple other establishments in town. So safety tip of the month: if you're doing anything with any heavy food oil wipe-ups or anything, or linseed oil is a really bad one, or any solvents, if you really want to keep those rags, wash them in hot water and then dry them out in your yard for 24 hours. Then you can keep them, but I just throw them out.
Yeah.
And throw them out in a metal can with a lid. The other thing I just wanted to talk about was pedestrian traffic's increasing because of the nice weather. Just be cautious that you're driving and everything. Kids on bicycles, adults walking, jaywalking, and stuff like that. We tend to get a rise in pedestrian accidents this time of year and throughout the summer. The other thing is Chief Sullivan did retire, as you know, April 1st, and he is going to have a luncheon in his honor at Anti-Hero over on West 9 Mile. I will forward Amy the dates. We haven't got a date yet for that, but it will be a weekday luncheon most likely, and you're all invited.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I was waiting for you to call.
Oh, please come forth, Chief.
Chief Pesh is going to leave. He had a prior commitment, but he took time out of his schedule to come here. So.
Yep. And
And there he's gone. Thank you.
He's out.
in and out.
Good recognition. Apparently, it was very important. I only have a couple points. As Chief Pesh talked about with warm spring weather, some of the things that we typically get are increasing. So, as everybody knows, it's like spring yard season. So we're starting to see a lot of complaints of people having their mulch, their dirt, their gravel, whatever they get delivered, and it gets dropped off in the street. That's not allowed here in Pleasant Ridge per ordinances. It's not allowed in a lot of communities. If you are ordering it and getting it delivered, please tell your contractors that it can be in the driveway or in the yard, but it has to be beyond the sidewalk. It can't be between the sidewalk and the curb or in the street. Also, what we've seen is then these contractors are leaving their heavy equipment, trailers, bobcats, dump trucks, and things in the street, which causes traffic flow and parking problems with parking on one side of the street. So if you are ordering or talking or doing things, that people would say, oh, I didn't know, or other cities allow it, and then We threatened to impound people's mulch before if they didn't.
Ooh, I want to see you do that. Do anything but impound my mulch.
Impound mulch. Depends what color it is. All right, that's good. Code enforcement, touch on that. Again, with the warm weather, we're all outside more. We're mindful of our neighbors' yards. We're not shut in. Just remind people that officers will be going around and looking in street by street. And typically, like tall grass and weeds, it can't be taller than 8 inches, which is the ordinance, which is pretty lenient. But that's on average, so it can be higher or lower. So if you have weeds protruding that's taller than your grass, or it's more than 8 inches, you'll get a warning for that. Trailers, campers, boats are generally known as RV parking. Is not allowed in Pleasant Ridge. We don't want the storage of all these things that make storage lots for those things. Trailers, certain trailers are, but they can't exceed like 6 feet in length, or 6 feet in height and 20 feet in length. And boats or trailers can be parked on the street for up to like 48 hours if you're loading or unloading to go somewhere for like, let's say, the weekend or camping or something like that. As long as it doesn't cause view obstructions for traffic. And then we'll also be looking for general like blight enumeration, debris, which is like trash, piles of wood, equipment, anything that you would just consider unsightly that we could see. And what we'll be doing is we typically issue a warning notice. We have these door hangers that we'll put on your door and say what the violation is, and you typically get a decent amount or an ample amount of time to correct the behavior. If you fail to correct that behavior, then we will issue violations. We don't want anything like laying around in the yards or things like that that would attract rodents. There's enough in there as there is without drawing these critters to our city. I mean, our city is named Pleasant Ridge for a reason. All things that I described make the city unpleasant. Let's try to be, I say let's all, I don't live here. Let's try to be good residents and neighbors and keep your properties looking nice. If you see something that's disturbing or unsightly or whatever, I would suggest maybe trying to talk to your neighbor first. Sometimes they get the police called on them and it starts a bad feeling between the neighbors. Let's try to be neighborly and good residents and good people just generally, and try talking with them first. If that doesn't resolve your problem, then by all means call the city, call us, and we'll come out and correct that behavior then. And Mayor, as you know, you're going to recognize coming up here after I walk away, May 15th is Police Memorial Day, and then also this week is Police Week in general. And I'd just like to remind people to think about the commitment, the dedication, duty, and sacrifice that all our law enforcement officers across the country and the world make every day. You know, when there's danger, we run to it without even thinking sometimes. We should think a little bit sometimes, but we do. That's our commitment to protect the society. You know, we're the sheepdogs. There's a whole bunch of wolves out there, and not that everybody's sheep, but there's a lot of sheep out there. With that being said, recently, Sergeant Reed and I just attended the Active Assailant Conference held a couple weeks ago in Troy. It's the largest conference in the U.S. held addressing active assailant topics, like the church shooting in Texas or the Ohio State campus thing, just to name a few. The presenters were outstanding. OACTAC helps put that on, a consortium that we're a member of. They awarded both citizens and officers awards and recognized them and their family at this conference. There was over 1,800 officers attending this. It's large, it's put on, it's very well. We brought back a lot of good information to share with our officers. Sergeant Reed also attended the Homeland Security Conference in Grand Rapids last week, and he brought back a whole lot of good information that we'll be sharing with our officers. And then last week I had the opportunity to attend an active shooter drill held at the Detroit Zoo, which included Royal Oak, Berkeley, Huntington Woods, ourselves, and then Alliance Medical and some fire personnel there, to train in a situation that if the zoo had an active shooter, what would do and what the response would be of the cities. It's not the first time we've done that. I think it's the first time that I'm mentioning it. I think in today's, unfortunately, the society we live in, it's more of a hot topic and we see it every day. Know that we hope that it will never happen, but all the communities around here train for this. We have the equipment for that. We're committed to each other to help each other. And even though we're small, our officers go and do attend this stuff. And there are many more plans for this type of training, as well as the medical side of it, moving forward here in the future. So hopefully, again, you never want to have it happen, but we're planning that we can be kind of prepared. Questions? None? Moving on. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, we go to City Commission Liaison Reports. We'll start with Commissioner Wall and Recreation Commission.
Hi. Monthly movie is Thursday, 12:15 and 6:15 showtimes. The First Man about Neil Armstrong. Deadline to register for PR swim team is next Thursday, May 23rd. Tennis lessons by Love All Tennis will begin at Gainsborough Park, and this is brand new for us to be offering this, so this is pretty cool. Love All Tennis will begin at Gainsborough on Saturday, June 1st. Register with lovealltennis.com. Pretty tricky name. Registration for session 1 swim lessons begin June 1st. Pool opens for the season on Friday, May 24th at 4 p.m. Very exciting. Please update your pool passes. This is important. Please update your pool passes beginning the week of May 20th. Bring your picture ID to avoid long lines during opening weekend. Team registration is underway for the Centennial Volleyball Tournament on June 23rd, $10 per team. And then, we have something new that we've never done before. We have the Rat Patrol coming Wednesday the 29th from 7 to 8:30. So to piggyback on the yard situation, if people are having issues and they need some help with some tips on how to get rid of rats or avoid rats, these people do a really good job. And her name's Laura. She's coming. She's the head of it. She's coming and she's going to give us tips of how to keep away rats, or if you have them, how to get rid of them in a humane way. The foundation is having their 100-year celebration auction this Saturday, in case you haven't heard about it. It's a great event. You can still get tickets. You can also, if you can't make it and you want to make a donation, you can also buy a raffle ticket for $100. There's only 200 being sold, so it's a good investment. Yep. If you win, it's big money. So, am I leaving anything out? I think I covered it. Okay. Thank you.
One more emphasis on the little tags. Shawnee
The
wants to
tag.
make sure.
Oh yes, we're going to be really hardcore about checking when you're coming into the pool. Don't be offended. We're really trying to keep tabs on people coming in the pool, monitoring crowds, making sure everyone is being checked in at the pool, and utilizing your guest passes. So don't be offended when you're asked, because every single person that walks in, whether they know you or they don't know you, is going to be asked to show their ID.
When will people be able to renew their
May
tabs?
20th, starting May 20th.
Right.
Like what hours of the day?
Through 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. So like
Okay.
8:30 a.m. through 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday
Okay.
until
Yeah.
4 on Fridays.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be great.
We updated
Plenty of opportunity.
the mayor's.
Got it today.
He was our test. Our test today. Make sure everything was in good working order. So we're well on the way.
I was so proud.
And I just want to say, the first city, so we have the first event, which is the foundation kicking off the 100-year celebrations. And then Friday, June 7th is our 100-year celebration, where if you're curious, come and celebrate the city, but we're going to have somebody from each group. We're going to have a table from each group so you can learn about all the different groups in the city in Pleasant Ridge and get to know. It's a great way to meet people, great way to investigate things if you want to.
Yeah.
If you're thinking you wanted to join, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And before you leave, if you have a chance, walk into the office, the main office. There's a wonderful plaque honoring the 100th
it's
anniversary.
beautiful.
It's very cool.
It's the logo. It's
Yeah,
really
it's very
beautiful.
cool. So
Yep. No, I think I really am done, right?
okay. I don't know. Is that it?
I'm done.
All right. Cool. All right.
Yeah, I'm done. Thanks.
Commissioner Krisiak, Ferndale Public Schools.
Thank you, Mayor. At the this is the April Ferndale Schools school board meeting. Sydney Embry, who is the University High School liaison, talked about the testing week that they had at University High School. She also talked about the excitement that seniors had for doing college exploration tours. Actually, it was the juniors who did the tours while the seniors were doing the testing. So that was a good day for the upperclassmen at University High School. Zoe Butters, who is the Ferndale High School liaison to the school board, talked about how the music students, there was a group of music students who went to New York City. She talked about the great time that they had there. They also talked about the students who sat for the exams as well at Ferndale High School. And the students who were not testing, a group of them went to the Holocaust Museum. So Zoe Butters talked about the student reactions to that solemn day. But overall, lots of going on at Ferndale High School. The Superintendent's Excellence Award for April actually went to a large group of University High School students. This group was made up of National Honor Society members, other groups, and they talked about how this was a group of identified leaders and how they were excelling. And what I thought was really cool is that the entire group went to Ferndale Lower Elementary School and did a day of mentorship with the kids at Ferndale Lower. So that was a really rewarding account of how the kids who have kind of been through it were going back and talking to the kids who had yet to, go through the school experience completely. So that was a good day for University High School. The Eagle of the Month went to Erica Bauer. She is involved in assisting in test prep. She's also vital for prom preparations. She's on the Oakland Literacy Council. She's an incredibly strong advocate for literacy in Ferndale and in Oakland County, and she was identified for her efforts with the Eagle of the Month award. Another fun day was when the fourth graders went to Camp Copaconic. They spent 2 fun-filled days and nights with their classmates playing outdoor games and team building and making memories to last a lifetime. This experience was made possible by donations from the Ferndale PTA, so a lot of gratitude for the Ferndale Parent-Teacher Association for making that a reality for the fourth graders. Oakland Schools held its annual event to honor the Teachers of the Year, and this is from across Oakland County. Ferndale was well represented. Michelle Harris was the Elementary Teacher of the Year at Ferndale Upper Elementary School. Mike Sigler was the Middle School Teacher of the Year from Ferndale Middle School. And Leslie Handyside was the High School Teacher of the Year from University High School. So a big point of pride for the district as a whole. And speaking of pride, this is an incredible event that was coming up that I learned about and like to spread the news about it in Pleasant Ridge. On May 21st, at the Ferndale High School Spring Orchestra Concert, the Ferndale High School musicians will be performing the world premiere of a specially commissioned piece by composer Kostas Defnis, D-A-F-N-I-S. This work by Kostas Defnis was written specifically for performance by the Ferndale High School Orchestra and is entitled Like Planted Hearts. On writing the piece, Defnis took inspiration from a poem by author that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote for his wife on their wedding day. So some historical connection to that. And this will be a world premiere event. So this will be the first time in the world that this song will be being performed. And it'll be at the Spring Orchestra Concert on May 21st at the Ferndale High School Auditorium at 7 p.m. And that's May 21st. And furthermore, if members of the Pleasant Ridge community would like to be a part of this project in a more meaningful way, the orchestra department is still accepting donations to go towards the cost of the commission, because apparently Kostas Defnis doesn't work for peanuts. So if you can help cover the cost of this incredible experience for these young musicians, donations of $15 and above will be thanked personally in the program. For more details on how you can donate, please contact Ferndale High School Orchestra Director, Mr. Ben May at benjamin.moy at ferndaleschools.org. And it just sounds like an incredible opportunity for the entire community. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Perry?
Hey,
Planning and DDA.
Thank you, Mayor. The Planning and DDA met on, what was it? It was Monday, April 22nd. And they went over, some of the highlights from the meeting were focused on the 2019-2020 DDA budget. Highlights from the budget include it's contractual services for the landscaping project that we want to do along the Woodward streetscape, which is an exciting, really exciting. You know, if you look along Woodward, it could use like a nice refresh, and there's some really good ideas over that they have been presented to the commission.
But I'm so sorry, I don't even have a.
There's also a budget in there for the promotions that have covered in the past, like the banners and stuff along Woodward. And so they're trying to figure out the best solutions because banners along Woodward are problematic. With our section, we have a high amount of wind, so they don't always like to stay in place. There's also, they're continuing the development grant, so the program, which is for if different businesses in our DDA have ideas to help improve their facades. It's a grant that they can get to help, you know, with some matching funds to help improve the look of their businesses. And then it's also getting into bigger capital improvements, like once we are going to get into, you know, the streetscape for Woodward, and, you know, planning ahead for that. Our next meeting is going to be on Monday, June 24th, right here at City Hall, so hopefully you can come. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Scott, Historical Commission.
Yep, just a couple of items to mention. The museum will be open this Saturday from 10 to noon, and the Historical Commission has been working to reorganize a lot of the things inside the museum, so you might see some things that you haven't seen before. And you might find some things inside your folder about your house that were dug up in the process of organizing. So there might be some new pictures. And the Historical Commission recommends people put pictures into their folder so that future homeowners, you know, decades from now, have the opportunity to see how their house has changed over time. And a lot of owners that move in really do want to understand, you know, where the house started. And we've got quite a few hitting that 100-year mark this year. And many of those people have come in just to see what the house was like when it went up. There are also some evening open houses that the Historical Commission has started to hold. There'll be another one on June 5th from 6 to 7. So if you're unable to make it on Saturday, June 5th would be that opportunity to come in after work or after the kids are home. Another cool thing that's coming up, the Historical Commission has commissioned a tile with Pewabic. We often do that for the city, and there's going to be one for the 100th year celebration. It's a lovely 4x6 green tile. You might see a preview of that tile on Saturday. It won't be the actual tile because Pewabic has many weeks of preparation. But just putting out there a heads up that that's coming. A few have been ordered. We'd really like to know how many more might be desired. And so there'll be an opportunity to order those.
Commissioner Scott, can it, go ahead.
There's a picture of it in the auction booklet.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So you can order it.
And you can
cost?
order
It's
it.
already
I
up.
put the order form in.
Yeah, there's an
Excellent.
order form
Yeah.
in there, and people have already been sending their order forms in. Just send it in with your check or cash, however you want
Great.
to pay for it, and then you have the option of either coming to pick it up, or for $5 more, we can mail it to you. So, yeah.
Awesome.
And we
It's already happened.
Yeah, we already have several orders in.
Cool. So I'll be the next. And the last thing would be coming up, mark your calendars for August 8th. We're bringing in a speaker. His name is Ted Legahall, I believe is his name. Leibel. Thank you. I always slaughter his name. Sorry. He will be talking about researching your historical home. And that, I believe, will be at 7 p.m. on the evening of August 8th. So again, as many of our homes are getting older, it'll just be an interesting way to understand where your house, how your house was built, where, you know, how to research it. So mark that on your calendar. And that's all I got tonight.
Good. Lots of things going on. Wonderful. Okay. Any further? Nothing thought about while? All right. We'll move on. Next item, proclamation declaring the first Friday in June as National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
Yeah, I appreciate Mayor. I know last year Mayor Metzger took the lead on working with Moms Demand Action and some other awareness groups. We actually had this on our agenda item last year for June, and so it's just natural that this appears in subsequent years. We actually really are lucky. We have 2 members of the local Moms Demand Action group who are Pleasant Ridge residents, who are strong advocates on this cause, and they're here with us tonight. Cindy Chenard and Jessica Perush. I don't know if you guys wanted to say a few words or.
Please, yeah.
Thank you very much for doing this for the second year in a row. I don't know about Jess, but my son is a teacher, not a shooter. And it is in the spirit that the issue of promoting gun violence prevention is extremely important to me. And how does he protect his students? School should be a sanctuary for safe learning. I think we can all agree. And asking teachers to carry in the classroom is grossly wrong. It poses risks to children by potentially allowing easier access to the guns in the classroom, which can increase suicide and homicidal rates potentially. It also increases unintentional risk for self-harm. We need to focus on decreasing gunfire in schools by keeping the guns off of school property. The FBI recently found that in 250 active shooter incidents, there were actually only 7 successful armed civilian interventions. However, unarmed civilians had a higher success rate of 22 interventions. Armed civilians endanger law enforcement, who now have to identify the good shooter versus the bad. This delays response time and poses risks to innocent bystanders. Armed teachers equate to higher costs for insurance and security for districts. Liability insurance is often not available to districts with teacher carry practices, and annual premiums are so large it is stretching already tight budgets. Training and ammunition costs are burdening the taxpayer. June 7th and 8th is National Gun Violence Prevention and Awareness Day. The event, Wear Orange Detroit 2019, is going to be on June 8. It is taking place in Spirit Plaza in Detroit, beginning at 10 a.m. with a march, and following is the rally from 11 to 1. As Pleasant Ridge plans its second annual proclamation to stamp out gun violence by proclaiming June 7 as National Gun Violence and Awareness Day, we remain as one of 14 communities who participated last year, and we're hoping, the Moms Demand Action Group is hoping to surpass that commitment this year by adding more communities. So students now are being taught the coin phrase, run, hide, and fight. Since the tragic loss of 17 lives in Parkland at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas last year. I was relieved to hear that a teacher I once babysat for was not in his building on April 20th, 1999 in Littleton, Colorado. 2 teens were killing 13, and wounded over 20 more. Sandy Hook Elementary in Connecticut, Newtown, Connecticut, lost 20 children between the ages of 6 and 7. And 6 adult staff members. This year, on April 30th, Riley Howell lost his life protecting classmates at University North Carolina, Charlotte, where my daughter attended. 2 were killed, 4 were wounded. Then on May 7 this year at the STEM school, Highlands Ranch in Denver, Colorado, Kendrick Castillo, who is being called a hero, who really shouldn't have to be called a hero. He was just a young man who should be enjoying senior parties and donning his cap and gown, lunged toward shooters to protect lives. His was lost. 2 friends who assisted. Joshua Jones is recovering from wounds. The other, a future Marine, unharmed, is Brendan Bailey. The final story of significance here is 12-year-old Nate Holly, and if any of you saw him this past week, he's quite a special young man. He reports holding a metal bat in his classroom because, end quote, because I was going to go down fighting if I was going to go down. 8 more were injured in addition to Castillo being killed. This is not okay. It is not and should never be normal. And I thank you, Pleasant Ridge, and please join Moms Demand Action in continuing to promote awareness and preventing gun violence. Anything to say?
No, you said it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you this if you want to post
Yes.
the information on the website.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Jessica.
much. Now I'm going to read the proclamation for National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas every day, 96 Americans are killed by gun violence, and on average there are nearly 13,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed with guns than people in other developed countries. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is mayors' highest responsibility. And whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from dangerous people. And whereas mayors and law enforcement officers know their communities best, are the most familiar with local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas in January 2013, Dda Pendleton, a teenager who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade and was tragically shot and killed just weeks later, should be now celebrating her 22nd birthday. And whereas to help honor Dda and the 96 Americans whose lives are cut short and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated June 7th, 2019, the first Friday in June, as the 5th National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Dda's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods. And orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 7th, the first Friday in June in 2019, to help raise awareness about gun violence. And whereas by wearing orange on June 7th, 2019, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Kurt Metzger, Mayor of the City of Pleasant Ridge, declare the first Friday in June 7th, 2019, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and encourage all citizens to support their local community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Now I ask if there is approval for the proclamation.
Your Honor, I move the proclamation declaring the first Friday in June as National Gun Violence Awareness Day be approved.
Second.
Right. Any discussion? May we have the vote, please?
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Wall?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for all you've done, both of you. Okay. Next item is the consent agenda. We have 8 items, but I guess I'm in a reading mood, so I've got, there are a couple things I just want to bring forth. Chief Nowak mentioned, as far as public safety, Police Memorial Day, I'd like to read another proclamation because I think it's very important and certainly important for the city of Pleasant Ridge. Whereas National Police Week is to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Whereas the dedicated men and women who have chosen law enforcement as a career face extraordinary risks and dangers in preserving our freedom and security. And whereas it is fitting and proper that we express our gratitude for the dedicated service and courageous deeds of law enforcement officers and for the contributions they have made to the security and well-being of all our people. And whereas by a joint resolution approved October 1st, 1962, the Congress has requested the President to designate May 15th of each year as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the calendar week during which such May 15th occurs as Police Week. And whereas the members of the City of Pleasant Ridge Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of our community. Now therefore, as evidence of our sincere appreciation for our police officers and all others, the Mayor and City Commission are proud to proclaim the week of May 12th to May 18th, 2019 as Police Week in the City of Pleasant Ridge, and May 15th, 2019 as Police Memorial Day. Further, the City of Pleasant Ridge hereby joins with other communities across this nation to honor all peace officers for their dedicated service and call upon all our citizens to make every effort to express their thanks to our men and women who make it possible for us to leave our homes and family in safety each day and return knowing that they are protected by men and women willing to sacrifice their lives if necessary to guard our loved ones, property, and government against all who would violate the law. I just want to thank you personally and thank the entire police force of Pleasant Ridge. We really appreciate everything you do.
On behalf of all of them, thank you.
All right. Two other things I want to mention on the consent agenda. One is the fact that we will be celebrating, as it's listed, resolution celebrating the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, giving women the right to vote.
Yay!
How about that? And I just to read the very end is the City of Pleasant Ridge will fly the 19th Amendment victory flag June 10th, 2019 through June 14th, 2019 to commemorate the state of Michigan ratifying the 19th Amendment, and August 24th, 2020 through August 28, 2020 to commemorate the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. For a long time, but thank goodness, 100 years. Okay, and finally, last thing before I asked for approval of the consent agenda. Never did this before, did it? I want to recognize that May 22nd, I want to declare May 22nd, 2019 as Volunteers Day in Pleasant Ridge and urge all citizens to be aware of the contributions made by our service organizational and volunteer workers and to participate in and support their various programs and projects. And we will be honoring all our volunteers next Wednesday at Axel Brewing. Should be a good time. Our second year there, so look forward to that. And with that, I'm going to ask if I can get approval of the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move the consent agenda be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? Anybody want to read anything else?
Mayor, if I could.
Yeah.
I just really quickly, because I think there's so much on the consent agenda this month that was of merit and deserving of honor. I just did want to say, in regards to Police Officers Memorial Day and this being Police Officers Appreciation Week, that one of the most appreciative components of that whole equation are the family and loved ones of the police officers, because I really believe, I know that they make a sacrifice every day, allowing their loved ones to come and protect our community. So in addition to honoring the officers, I also want to recognize the family and loved ones of the officers this week of all weeks, and just show our appreciation for them as well.
That's very important. Thank you. Good. May we have a vote?
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Commissioner Wall?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries. Through the consent agenda. All right. Next item on the agenda, establishing public hearings on Tuesday, June 11, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. to solicit public comments on the following. First is proposed fiscal year 2019-2020 millage rates, and the second is the proposed fiscal year 2019-2020 combined city budgets. Jim, do you want to
Sure.
say anything?
I have our annual overview of budget. Before I jump into the PowerPoint, one thing I want to highlight from the memo that's in the packet is I do want to look back at our accomplishments for the past year and what we've done since June of 2018. We did finish the reconstruction of all the streets in the city. Ridge, Indiana, and Bermuda were reconstructed, so now we are at 100% for good streets. we continue to maintain, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of our maintenance program that we have going on, but now we're moving into maintenance mode of keeping what we have in good shape. This past year, we purchased a new police patrol vehicle. We did purchase the Tahoe that is out front.
Pretty car.
It's nice.
It is
It's
nice.
looking,
Yeah, we had some reliability issues with the Explorers, so we did not purchase another one of those just because of the problems we've had. And a lot of departments are going the same route, so nothing ever gets cheaper. We continued our street tree planting program. This is one that I'm particularly, I guess, invested in, but we've now planted 326 new street trees over the past 4 years. And we all know for Pleasant Ridge what an important part of the community that is, and we will continue to do that to keep our tree canopy lush and verdant. We completed the renovation of the big room at the community center. If you haven't been there, it's pretty awesome. But that space combined with the new patio area is a really great new event and gathering space, and we will be having a grand opening for that again on June 7th, kicking off our Pleasant Ridge 100th centennial celebrations, but also celebrating the big room. So I know the mayor's been sharpening his scissors, and we'll break those
So
out.
excited.
We're also doing a new resident reception, so if you're a new resident in town and want to know how you can get involved with the community, all of our community groups and organizations will be there ready to talk to you and let you know how you can jump in and start enjoying the rich and vibrant civic and social life we have here in Pleasant Ridge. We began to address our unfunded pension liability this past year thanks to the millage that was passed by the voters in November of 2017. We started to make additional excess contributions towards our unfunded pension liability. Our overall city pension fund was at 53% funded, and our police fund was at 47% funded. So with that new source of funding, we're going to start to chip away at that and get ourselves on more solid footing there. So we've made some good progress on a variety of fronts over the past year in the city, and we'll continue to work on some projects that we'll talk about in a little bit in the coming year. So,
Can I just make one comment? Sure. We're talking about volunteers and everything and organizations. I don't know if everyone knows this, but the community center, the big room and the patio, the foundation funded that. And that came from the auction, and I mean largely the auction. So just know that all the money goes right back, that's raised by the foundation goes right back into the city. Sorry.
very true.
It's good.
Okay, so we'll talk about some millage rates, some trends that are external and internal trends that we face and manage. Pension funding, we have a 3-year budget, so we'll talk about all those things. So the process, we set the public hearing tonight for June on the budget. The budget is available on the website for review. It's in the packet. We'll also call that out as its own item on the homepage. So if you want to review the budget, it'll be right there for you. The budget and utility rates will be approved in June. Actually, I'm sorry, utility rates are approved now. The budget will be approved in June. And then this all becomes effective July 1 of this year. So the headline number for millage rates, the millage rate last year was 21.4388. This year will be 21.4120. The police pension millage is phasing in at 0.35 mils per year. So even with that additional 3.35 mils coming in due to Headley rollbacks, the overall millage rate is very, very slightly going down in the city. These are the components of that millage rate. You can see where everything, how it falls out. The millage rollback factor this year is 0.9843. Property tax revenue growth is 2.4%, which is what is allowed by the state of Michigan. And the assessed values in the city grew by 3.2% last year. This is the long-term historic trend for millage rates. You can see that we're currently now right back where we were at the late 80s. And you can see where we approved, I don't know why this is at the dot. There we go. This is where we had those new millages approved in 2014 for the general operating and parks improvement millages, and then Headley has again started to slowly roll those back with millage rates. So when you pay your millage bill, we've talked about the 21.4 mils. That's what you pay to the city of Pleasant Ridge. However, your total millage rate is larger than that. I think it's around 45 or 46 mils. So where does that all go? Well, Pleasant Ridge gets 46% of that, and the other 54% goes to other entities. Ferndale Schools collect 31%. County operating is 9%. The intermediate school district is 7% of your tax bill. Community college gets 3%. SMART gets, and Oakland County Public Transportation gets 2%. And then the other 2% is Oakland County Parks, the zoo, the DIA, and Metro Parks. So just to place us in comparison for local millage rates within Oakland County, we are here at about 21.5. And you can see that the average is right about here, a little below 20. So we're pretty close to average in terms of our millage rate. Smaller communities, primarily residential communities, typically have to tax ourselves at a higher rate because the cost to provide services to residential property is much higher than the cost to provide services to other types of land uses. So if you have a lot of industrial property costs about 30 cents for every tax dollar it generates. And this is in the average community. Commercial property costs between 50 and 70% of the tax revenues it generates to service. So those are money makers. We don't have a lot of those in Pleasant Ridge. So small communities like us, Huntington Woods, Clarkston, Hazel Park and Oak Park, those are different issues, but Walled Lake, all of these primarily residential communities have to tax ourselves at a higher rate. Larger communities like Novi, Troy, Rochester Hills, Auburn Hills, that have a lot of industrial tax base, they can have lower tax rates. So it's just a nature of who we are, and that drives the makeup of our tax rates. So general fund revenue by source, this is inflation adjusted. So this chart shows all of the various components of city revenues over the past 35 years. And this is inflation adjusted into 2019 dollars. So you can see that it's been pretty stable at a little bit less than $3 million for general fund revenues. And you see the impact of the recession that knocked us down. But over the long term, our trend has been right here. So not much has changed. What has changed is back here you can see how state shared revenue almost equaled property tax revenue in the 80s, and that has just declined and dwindled. So, and this is everywhere in the state, because the state has taken away funding from local governments and schools, we have to tax ourselves at a higher rate to make up for what the state no longer shares with us. And this is just percentage, so this is equalized. And this is again showing state shared revenue. So the orange line here is inflation adjusted shared revenue. And then the blue line is nominal, what they actually gave us that year. So in terms of nominal, in 2001, the state gave us almost $400,000 in shared revenue. In inflation adjusted terms, that was about $550,000. This year, it's about $255,000 that they're giving us. And going back to the late 80s, they were giving us almost $600,000 a year in shared revenue. When your general fund budget is $3 million, $300,000 difference is, or $350,000, that's over 10% that for funding that we've lost. So that's a pretty significant impact that we and every other community and school district in the state has suffered. Long-term property values, again, you can see the impact of the recession where property values, and this is assessed property value, took a big dive. We've recovered and then some. And then taxable property value, less of a decline, and this is just because of the gap between taxable and assessed property value because of Prop A, but that's also recovered. The chart that's not here is inflation adjusted. This year, pop the champagne bottles. This year, in inflation adjusted terms, our taxable value has now again equaled what we had in 2008 and 2009. So we're back to where we were 10 years ago on an inflation adjusted basis. Hooray. Just some more comparative look at all of us at Pleasant Ridge versus all the other Oakland County municipalities. These aren't townships, these are cities and villages. But for total revenue per person, what we generate, again, based on the millage rate, we're almost exactly the same place on this chart, except the cast of characters is a little bit different. Us and Huntington Woods, you'll see, are always right next to each other, hanging out. But Royal Oak, Birmingham, Bloomfield Hills, they really bring it in, and that's, I guess, the benefit of having either, whatever they have in Bloomfield Hills, but, very successful large downtowns are clearly a very good source of revenue as well. And if you look at revenue per acre, a traditional downtown is the greatest thing you can have. If you look at things like a farmer would. A Walmart is the worst thing you can have in terms of taxable value per acre. Anyways. When you look at expenses per person, it tracks very closely. So what do we spend our money on? Well, we do value our police here, and you can talk about what your priorities are, but what your priorities really are is always reflected in your budget. And here in Pleasant Ridge, we spend the second highest amount per capita per person on police in Oakland County. And again, that's part of the cost of doing business in a small community like us. We spend $50,000 on a police vehicle, so does Troy, but we're spreading that cost over a much smaller, basis. We pay for clemency, we pay all of those fixed costs. We have minimum manpower requirements, so police officers per capita here is higher than it is in other communities. So this isn't a bad thing that we're spending this money. It's just showing that we do value our police and that we put the money in to maintain a police force that can do the job and do the job well. Fire spending per capita, with our contractual relationship with Ferndale, here's a place where we get a very good deal. For Oakland County communities, we're on the lower end for per capita spending on fire. And one thing I should talk about is these communities here that are showing it at zero for both fire and police. These are your public safety communities where they don't have a police or a fire department. They have a public safety department that provides both police and fire. So how do they stack up? Well, here's public safety spending per capita. So this is with all the public safety communities, and then this is for communities that have police and fire departments, just adding those together. And you'll see that Bloomfield Hills, so let me explain the colors. Here's us. So when you look at total public safety spending per capita, with our efficient fire spending, we end up right back where we are, a little bit above average. The orange dots are your public safety communities. So Huntington Woods has public safety. They're, again, still very similar to us, showing that we probably wouldn't reap a lot of benefit if we went public safety. But down here, the larger communities, public safety is an efficient way to go. So there's a break point, I think. Of course, Bloomfield Hills is also public safety, and they spend $1,000 per person on public safety, which is 35-40% higher. So I really want to know.
They bought Yukons.
What do they do?
Every year.
Right. A Tesla Model X patrol vehicle, I'm not really sure. But again, they're Bloomfield Hills, and they can do that kind of
Those
thing.
gold signs.
The other thing where we stand out is if you want to be a small community and you want to have a pool, you're going to spend money on parks and recreation. Because here we spend, we are the outliers along with Huntington Woods. So police and parks are really the things that we clearly value here in Pleasant Ridge, and that'd be fun. And they're important things, and they make a huge difference for us and our community, so we'll continue to fund those things. But again, your budget identifies what your priorities are. So, net revenue, bottom line, we're projecting a $28,425 of net revenue in fiscal year 1920. One of the goals that we have set forth for ourselves is to maintain an unrestricted fund balance of 25 to 30%. We're right about 29.5% right now. So this net revenue will keep us right there at that 29.5% unrestricted fund balance. The pension millage phases in step 2 of the 4-year phase in, so that's at 0.7 mils this year. It's going to generate almost $110,000 of revenue. We have $255,000 of pension expenses budgeted, and that incorporates some of that new excess contribution we're making each year to chip away at that unfunded liability. Our major capital expenditures this year, we're again partnering with the foundation on some pathway lighting for Gainsborough Park. And by pathway lighting, this is at some places 12-foot tall lights on a pole, and then in between those major nodes. So around the playground and at the street entrances to Gainesborough Park, you'll have that a little bit higher lighting, and then at the nodes or the links in between those nodes along the pathways, we'll have bollard lighting. So about 4 foot tall. And the intent is just light the pathway, not create a lot of light pollution for surrounding residences, and just create a safer environment for everyone who's already walking in the park at night anyways. So we might as well provide a safe and comfortable environment for them. This year we're also going to tackle some City Hall Commission Room updates. So if you enjoy the Elks Lodge furniture from 1965, I would encourage you to come here and sit on it for the next few months. So you can even see the stuffing coming out of it in some places. So we'll be replacing that, no longer having black electrical tape holding some of them together. But we're also going to be doing a technology upgrade so that we won't have screens stuck on the wall and projectors hanging from the ceiling, and losing some of our limited seating capacity with a tripod. We'll have built-in cameras, built-in technology capabilities. We're planning on having actually 2 screens so that the audience can see one screen and the commission will be able to look at another one, and we won't have everyone getting neck cramps, going through contortions trying to see a screen here. So that'll be nice. And then just some updates. We're planning on replacing the glass in the back so that when we have overflow crowds, we don't have people leaning around to hear. So we'll be doing a half wall to separate the 2 spaces. So it's going to be a big and nice improvement. We're glad to be able to do that. The designer for us is Patrick Thompson. His firm, who's a Pleasant Ridge resident, who does all kinds of amazing projects for our town, and we're very lucky to have him on board. He's the one who did the big room project for us, and so we've again tapped his genius for this room. So we're looking forward to making some nice upgrades here to be able to do the business of government a little bit better. Utility rates. These are adopted by resolution. So the draft rates, the ready to serve charge would be $37 a bill. The combined water and sewer rate would be $75.08 per bill. The garbage pickup fee, $22 per bill. And your ERU stormwater runoff fee, $47.51 per residential unit. And the residential unit value varies by property throughout town based on a study we did a few years ago. Capital improvement projects, we have a 3-year budget and a rate model that we use when setting water rates. So we have some cleaning and televising of sewers, which we've been doing. We also have a budget in place for capital improvements to address any issues we find with the sewers. And so far we've done the entire east side for cleaning and televising the past 2 years. And we're making some minor repairs, mostly lining the sewers with the new plastic insert. There's a few places that we have to do some excavations, but nothing major. The bigger project is water meter head replacement. Actually, this is a transponder head replacement. It's the unit that sits on top of your water meter, and that transmits the reading of how much water you've used to us. Those have a battery life. There's a built-in battery in those, and they just run out after a certain amount of time, so you have to replace those. The transponder heads we have right now are no longer, they're end of life, so they're no longer sold or serviced by the company that does this. So we'll be putting in new cellular meters. There's a couple benefits to these. Residents can download an app and you can check your water usage on a daily basis. It'll actually send us alerts when you have a leak. You can have a leak detection in real time. Right now, when you have a leak in your house, you don't really know until you get your bill. And if you have a leak, if you have a toilet, if you have something that's been running, sometimes people have a little hole in their irrigation line. We've seen all kinds of different reasons that people get slammed with a $1,000 or sometimes $2,000 water bill for 1 quarter unexpectedly. And that's because we don't discover it until we take a reading. With this, there's real-time leak detection, and it can alert us and alert the homeowner that we've got an issue and nip that in the bud before you get the major bill. So this is always a major cost. The last time we did this, I think, was 2004, 2005, and at that time we had, I think it was a $65 meter replacement fee that was on a couple water bills. Right now we're budgeting for this in that ready to serve charge. That has gone up by $5 per bill. We're going to do this over a couple years. That's paying for the meter head replacement. It's about $200 to replace the transponder at each house. And we have to hire somebody to come in to get into each house, to get into the basement, to change those out. So it's not a small project. So that's incorporated into the water rate model. Now, the longer term bombshell that's not yet incorporated in the water rate model, but we're going to be thinking about, is the state of Michigan has mandated that we have to get all of the lead out of all of the water systems in the state. And it's understandable from our perspective. It's a bit of an overreaction because we have never had an issue, and all the communities around us that are majority lead service line communities have never had an issue. Flint mismanaged their water system badly. We don't mismanage our water system. And as long as you manage your water system properly, there's no problem with having lead service leads. None of our water mains are lead. It's only the part of the water system that goes from the water main to your meter. Some residents have lead in their house, lead pipes in their house. That's the residents' issue. Now, the public portion of that system, the city owns the portion of the lead service lead from the water main to the stop box. And the stop box is somewhere around the sidewalk for each property. It's where we can get in and turn your water off or turn it on. From the stop box to the house is the property owner's property. It's their responsibility. The state, however, has mandated that the public water system has to replace all lead service leads all the way from the main to the meter, which means we have to get in, replace the water meter where it comes through the foundation of the house, in the basement. If you have a finished basement, we're gonna have to tear it up to get, some people have built basements to hide. We're mandated by the state to do this. And you can imagine the cost to do this for all of the service leads we have in the city. And as a city that was primarily developed before 1930, we are large majority lead service lead. So this is a major, major, major project for Pleasant Ridge. Lansing did this, and it was between $10,000 and $20,000 per house to do this on the streets that they had. Because again, you're digging up the street, you're digging up all the way to the house. This is a major cost. And so the state says the public, the water utility has to do this. Well, we are the water utility. We can't just wave our wand and create money. This cost is going to be passed on to the residents. So we don't know how we're going to do this yet. We are waiting and seeing. There's a few things. There's a few checkpoints. The state says you have to replace 5% of your lead service lines every year, starting I think in 2020. But you can do an asset management plan and back that up a little bit. We have to do a complete water system materials analysis, so that's going to be a cost. We have to go out and actually determine where all of these lead service lines are. That's a major undertaking in and of itself. That has to be done by 2025. Going back to the fact that we just finished reconstructing all of our streets, we're really not looking forward to digging them up again to get to the water mains. So we can do an asset management plan. So we're going to do an asset management plan that says, okay, well, we constructed Amherst in 1995, and we constructed Oakdale in 2008, and we constructed, all the streets in town, and that has an expected life expectancy, and we'll be able to plan out for when we plan on addressing each street. And then for years and years and years, for 20 years, it's probably going to be every year we have to dig up a street and do this water lead project, and then redo the street. So hopefully we just do this when the streets are already showing their age, and try to combine street maintenance along with this project. So get ready. And so part of the issue is that if some residents have already paid to change their water service lead from the stop box to the meter, so the public utility has to pay for this somehow. So we have to figure out a way of funding this that's fair, so that a homeowner who has already undertaken the expense of changing their water service lead doesn't have to pay for everyone else to change their water service lead. So we got to look into how we're going to handle that whole thing.
It's like converting from well to city water.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're not the only ones dealing with this. Everyone is kind of dealing with this. We pretty much have it as bad as anybody because of the fact that we are a primarily residential community where we are probably 90% plus lead service lines. A lot of other communities, are a little bit better off, have a little bit bigger tax base, customer base to spread this over than we do, but we'll figure it out. For the service analysis, for the transponder head replacement project, one of the things we can do there, and is when we have a company that's in changing out all the water meters, they'll be able to actually test what the material is, at least from the meter to the floor, what that pipe is that comes from the main to your meter. They'll be able to look at that and see what kind of material is in each house. That'll help with our materials analysis, but you know, that's the long-term thing that we have to plan around. And we have not yet started budgeting for this because it's a game changer. So when you look at that 10 to 12 million, and that could be low. It could be 16 to 18 million. So when you're talking about, you know, $700,000, $800,000 a year, our total water fund budget is $1.3 million a year. So if you just do the simple math, if you're talking about, you know, this new thing that is 60 or 70% of our current water fund budget, and if our utility rates right now are funding our water fund, water rates.
And that doesn't include 22 roads.
Yeah, correct. Well, so yeah, the roads, I wouldn't expect the water fund to pay for the road repair. So we have the infrastructure millage and we have some other things that we can partner on here, you know, but you're right. So, you know, if you talk about increasing your water rate 60 or 7%, 70%.
Yep.
So,
Wonderful.
moving on.
Gee.
Something cheery.
Push it down.
Yeah. Can I just ask, can we advocate for any kind of legislative relief? I mean, where did this come from?
This didn't come from legislation, and this came from all whipsaw reaction to Flint. And it came from a DEQ rulemaking process, because they have rule-making ability. Is there a legislative fix? Not really, because the new governor is not changing anything with this. No politician is going to fight this.
It's like fighting clean air.
Right. And they made, exactly. And they made this rule, so the state allegedly has a, constitutionally cannot pass unfunded mandates down to the cities, so. Anyways, so, you know, they constantly do that. But they made this under a health and safety, health and public welfare rule that does not have to meet the unfunded mandate. So the city of Detroit and a few other municipalities have sued the state. And there is a lawsuit over this. I don't have any real hope that that's going to go anywhere. But that is the outlet for this. I don't think anyone's going to vote. No legislator is going to vote against clean air, clean water.
Right. Has the Michigan Municipal League weighed in on this?
They have. They're sort of neutral on the whole thing. Their whole thing is, well, we just want to make sure that there's a Bolt-approved funding mechanism for this, which fine, but for us, a Bolt-approved funding mechanism is still going to be a 70% increase in water rates to pay for service line replacements. So, like I said, we got to figure some things out. You know, we may give homeowners the option to replace their private lead on their own, and then I don't know. Okay. We got a lot of work to do on this, and everybody is in a state of uncertainty on this, so we're just learning.
Thank you.
Yeah. So back to the now. These are our wholesale and supplier cost increases. This is what's charged to us by our suppliers and our, service providers. Water wholesale cost is going up 2.1%, sewage treatment cost is going up 1.2%, stormwater 2.8%, and garbage pickup 3.5%. Inflation was 2.4%, so this all clusters right around that inflation rate. The consumer rate increase here in Pleasant Ridge will be 3.7%. And this is, the reason this is increasing higher than that inflation is because of the meter transponder replacement project. So there's something that residents are going to get out of this, and that's new equipment to read the meters. So that's the summary of budget and water utility rates. We have motions in your packet to approve the utility rates and to set the public hearing for the budget in June. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or clarify anything on that very high level overview. So if there's any detail you'd like, I'm here.
Are there any questions or need for any? Nothing? All right, well. Do I have a motion to establish the public hearings?
Your Honor, I move that a public hearing be established for Tuesday, June 11th, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. to solicit public comments on the proposed fiscal year 2019-2020 millage rates and the proposed fiscal year 2019-2020 combined city budgets.
Is there support?
Support.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, I would just encourage our residents in the month before the public hearing. Jim has indicated, and it's part of our packet, but it will be a separate link on our website if it's not already.
It will be tomorrow, yes.
All right, thank you, Jim. Just to, if you're interested, look at that. And I really like the way the budgets have been presented over the last few years. There's a detail there. There's also a great summary. So I definitely encourage our residents to take a gander on that over the course of the next month and show up at the public hearing if there's anything that you want to add to the discussion. So, thank you.
Okay, can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Commissioner Wall?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes. Motion carries. Next item is the 2019-2020 utility bill rates. I think we have seen enough about that. Do I have a motion to adopt those rates?
Your Honor, I move that the resolution regarding the 2019-2020 utility bill rates be adopted as recommended.
Support?
Support.
Any further questions, comments? All right, let's vote.
Commissioner Wall?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries. All right, next item is the 2019 Sidewalk Program Bid Award. Back to you, Jeff.
Thank you. As you may or may not be aware, we are doing a major sidewalk repair and replacement program this summer. We bid out initially this year to replace all of the defective sidewalks on the east side of the city with the intent to do the west side next year. By defective sidewalk, there was a set of criteria that we have that is based on basically everybody's defective sidewalk criteria. Our engineers went out and did a survey of the city to find any sidewalk that met those criteria, and it's things like heaves, if it's a trip hazard, if it's cracked in more than 2 places, if it's spalling, if it's draining the wrong way. They looked at all of those things. So any sidewalk that met those criteria would be replaced, and they did a lot of pink dots last year to identify which sidewalks met their criteria. We got a quantities list together and then bid out the job. We got let's see, I think 9 responses. The engineer's estimate for the job was $216,800, and the low bid came in at $154,861, so it was well below the engineer's estimate. Now, the second low bid came in at $182,442, so still below the engineer's estimate, which is a good thing. And why am I telling you about the second low bid? Well, that's because when we checked into the references for the low bidder, the references they gave us came back okay. But Anderson Eckstein, which is a large engineering firm, has experience dealing with the low bidder in other communities. And also called a couple communities that were not on the low bidder's reference list. And the reports were not good. So there was not really an issue or complaints about the work itself, but the fact that they were terrible, terrible communicators and terrible coordinators.
We've had that before.
That's not going to fly in Pleasant Ridge. The level of service that we provide to residents in communication is, I would put it up against any municipality, and we can't have that. So given that the second low bidder came in still below the engineer's estimate, and their references and their background check by AEW came back much better. It is our recommendation that we award the bid to Luigi Ferdinandi and Son Cement Company, Incorporated, in the amount of $182,442. Now, a couple of other items I'd like to add on to that is because this work did come in below the engineer's estimate, we have asked if the contractor would be willing to also do the west side sidewalks this year. So they said they can do that. However, we need to be flexible in working with their scheduling, so that's fine. It'll probably be towards the end of the construction season as they add this on, so this will be more towards the fall that the west side will get done, but it'll get done. So the engineer, they're scheduled to come out in mid-June, I think, and survey the west side sidewalks to start developing that quantity list as well.
That's exciting.
Yeah. The other thing that the contractor has expressed a willingness to do is that they will take on additional work for homeowners. So,
Great.
you know, the city's going to be replacing your defective flags, but you know there might be 2 here, your old ones here, a few more there, or residents may have other work that they want to get done while we have a contractor out. We're not guaranteeing that their rates are going to be the best if you bid it out, but they probably will be competitive because they're going to be here and they're going to be mobilized anyways. So the contractor said that they are willing to do that, but they will work with homeowners directly. So it's not going to go through the city. We're not going to be accounting for that, keeping track of that. That would be a side agreement you have with the contractor, and because again, I don't want to be responsible for the fact that they cut your irrigation line or something.
Just need a driveway.
There goes another sprinkler
Go see the
system.
permit.
There goes.
Right.
Who knows?
Yes, so maybe maybe we'll waive permit fees or something if you use the city's contractor.
Ooh, there you
We'll
go.
have to talk
Big
about
word
that. I
there.
just made that
Sweet in the pot. Amy's like,
Amy's going, wait a second.
up. I can see Amy,
Don't give up that money. Come on.
So as I fly and make up things by the seat of my pants, because apparently that's just how we govern now. I'll tweet it later. It'll be good. So we'll communicate to everyone how you can get in contact with the contractor to arrange your side work independent of the city later. So I think you have a motion before you to approve the bid for Luigi Ferdinandi and Son Cement Company Incorporated in the amount of $182,000, $442.
May I have a motion to approve?
Mayor, I move the bid for the 2019 Sidewalk Program be approved to Luigi Ferdinandi and Son Cement Company, Inc. of Roseville, Michigan, in the amount of $182,442, and to further authorize city staff to work with the contractor to extend the bid pricing to include west side sidewalk work.
Is there support?
Second.
What?
Second.
You did it? Okay. And that was exciting. Any further discussion or questions? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate Jim working on this bid. I just have a few questions. I know I exchanged an email on this issue of wages. One thing that concerns me in particular, is like we're not contracting with the lowest bid here. We're contracting with the second lowest bid. My concern is if these bids are just coming in low because the wages that they're ultimately paying the people doing the work are low. I know in the bid document, the tabulation of bids, it doesn't really price out wages or price per hour as far as the actual employees. And I know there's a difficulty there in a bid document to kind of dig into that. That's almost like proprietary as far as each individual business is concerned. Is there a way in future bid documents that we could request or at least have there be some sort of mention of wages for the employees doing the work? Is that something that's asked in other communities? Is there a way to find that out?
Usually that's if you have a prevailing wage or some kind of ordinance for that, which is really what we need to look at going to.
Okay.
And that would be something we'd have to really carefully look at, because I understand, the desire to make sure that people are well compensated, but that would also materially impact our ability here to get projects done. So we'd have to look at all of that.
Yeah. And one thing is, these businesses, obviously they're dealing with some communities who don't have prevailing wage or other communities that do. So that's just something in the future. I know in this instance, it's kind of not something that we've scoped out. So maybe we look at that going forward. Another thing, do you have the tabulation of bids up? One thing that I've been looking at in relation to Luigi Ferdinandi is line 19, which is traffic maintenance and control, and 21, which is surface restoration and seating. They're coming in really low. Like traffic maintenance, they've bid $1, and for surface restoration, they bid $500. So I just want to be sure that one, when they're out there working, that they're going to have the ability to manage the job site and control traffic. And two, and you can help me out on this one with the surface restoration. That would mean, as obviously as you dig the old cement out, you put the new cement in, there's going to be damage to lawns, the beams. They're going to be responsible for putting that back to correct, or is that going to be something the homeowner is going to be responsible for? Because $500 doesn't seem like it's going to go very far.
Right. This is something we see in bids all the time. Yes, they are responsible for seeding, and it's not going to be side and beautiful restoration, but they will seed and restore any areas where damaged as they excavate to do their forms, as they do removals. It just really comes down, they know that that's required. It was in the contract bids. It's going to be in the contract book that they're required to do that.
Okay.
So when different companies bid it out, they've just got different ways of allocating costs. So
Okay.
let's get into the weeds for a second here. So on one page in the bid docs, we've got the low bidder and the second low bidder on this page. The low bidder bid $13,000 for traffic maintenance and control. They also had a lump sum item of $500 for restoration. The second low bidder had $1 for traffic control and the same $500 for surface restoration and seating. But when you look at the unit cost, it's $3.43 per square foot for 4-inch concrete for the low bidder, $5.15 per square foot for 4-inch concrete for the second low bidder. And if we flip the page to the third low bidder, they also have higher lump sum items for restoration and traffic maintenance, but their per square foot cost is $3.75 per square foot for 4-inch concrete. So the second low bidder just rolled those costs into their per square foot. So just, different companies have different ways of estimating their costs.
Yeah.
And that was just a result of how Ferdinandi does it versus some of these other guys who do call out a lump sum for traffic maintenance versus rolling it into the square foot cost. But the contract book is what sets forth all these requirements, and that's what they're responsible for upholding. And meeting. Yeah. So yeah, we'll be covered there.
Okay, great. Thank you for getting in the weeds a little bit on that. I was excited to hear about because of the below price. There's going to be this idea about the west side. Now, would that be included in the $182,000 price, or are we going to have to?
Oh no.
Right.
So that would be extending their bid prices, knowing that their bid prices versus all the other guys who bid. And then, so, for the east side, we have 21,600 square feet of 4-inch concrete. What'll happen is they'll get the west side quantities. We have 19,800 square feet of 4-inch concrete to replace on the west side. They'll just apply the same unit price multipliers. That'll be our price we pay for the west side as well.
Okay, so we're not going to we won't have to rebid the west side jobs. Okay.
Knowing that their prices and their unit prices were good. Yeah. It's just extending and expanding that.
Okay. And the other exciting thing that you mentioned was the work for residents. I think a lot of residents would like to take advantage of that. I don't know, is there an opportunity for us to have kind of like a quote per slab, so like they're not going to one neighbor and saying, well, we'll do it for this one, and then going to the next one and say we're going to do this one?
No.
Is there a way we could get consistent pricing for all of us?
There's not, because when dealing with each homeowner is different. The city's all the same. Replacing that sidewalk flag or that sidewalk flag is exactly the same process for them. This homeowner's request versus this homeowner's request could be very different. So for that reason, the contractor who's dealt with this issue before did not want to just say, we're extending all these prices. They're going to work with each homeowner individually to do that quote. Because you may want to do a little decorative touch on a walk or something, and how do you price that based on this? So we will leave that in. If the homeowner doesn't like the price, then you can find your own contractor. But yeah.
Okay.
So I don't want to get into that.
No, understandable.
They're not willing to.
It's understandable.
Yeah, to do that blanket either.
Okay. All right. No, that's all I had. Thank you, Jim.
Just a quick one along the same lines. There were no special projects that we think might make the quotes different between the east and the west side, like an odd sidewalk or anything that might make the numbers, that the rankings different somehow.
No.
Okay.
It's all the same.
Okay.
Oakdale has 4-foot wide sidewalks versus 5-foot wide sidewalks, but that's a quantity
unit
issue,
price
because it's
is
per
a-
square foot.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote.
Commissioner Barry?
Yes.
Commissioner Wall?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries. I kept my mouth shut through the whole thing, but I kept thinking back at the Kwame Kilpatrick, the FBI session that we had, and thought, as long as Bobby Ferguson isn't involved with we'll be okay, I think. If he shows up at any meetings, run. All right.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda, marijuana establishment public input survey.
Let me hand the power over.
Oh, good.
Power.
Jim always gets to do all the cool slides, so
I'm just
I
gonna
thought-
sit back.
so I got to do some myself. So you know we had the survey up online and printed if you wanted it. We advertised it in the Ridger and at a couple of our meetings, and we ended up with 398 Pleasant Ridge respondents. There were a few outside of town respondents, which I immediately eliminated from the discussion. I think they all wanted pot in Pleasant Ridge, but other than that,
Yes.
we want to go shopping there. So we're going to look at the results of the survey. I can't read any of that, right? So that doesn't help. Is this going to be really difficult? I'm going to have to.
Do you want me to wing it?
Huh?
You want me to wing the presentation for you?
No, you don't have to. Can you read it better than I
He's
can?
got it in front of him.
Oh, he's got it. Oh,
Yeah, he's got it on the other.
Oh, that's true. He's got it on.
Yeah, pass it down.
I can't.
Can't pass
The
it.
wire doesn't really go beyond here.
Right, so I'm just going to go over here.
There you go.
Hey,
There you
I'll
go.
just. Can I do that?
Mayor on the move.
Here.
Wow.
All right. Or I should have just asked him for his glasses. Maybe that would help. Can I move this?
Yeah, you can put it in front of you.
Oh, okay.
It'll reach there.
All right. So,
Sit in the big chair.
There you go.
all right. So obviously we asked people, you know, if you were in favor of legalizing recreational marijuana. So the first question was, if you were in favor of legalizing recreational marijuana, although we did give people an option to say I was not in favor, please indicate why. So we gave a number of options. Interestingly enough, 63%. So you could mark all, you know, more than one response. So 63% of the respondents indicated that decriminalization, eliminating the risk of arrest and incarceration, possession of small quantities, was their top reason, followed by to allow personal recreational use. That was second. Then we had people not in favor, given that option. And then finally, potential tax revenue for Pleasant Ridge came in around 27%, and to allow marijuana businesses to locate in Pleasant Ridge was the lowest at 25, just under 26%. And then we had other. So we did give people a chance for other, and these were the others. These were the ones that came out most often: medical benefits, environmental benefits, tax revenue for the state rather than the city. Refocus law enforcement priorities. A lot of people wanted to make sure that marijuana was not the focus of a lot of law enforcement. Not that it is necessarily now, and the chief has told us that this is a very low priority and has been. But the fact that we can eliminate most of it is very beneficial. And then personal business opportunities. There are some Pleasant Ridgers who are very interested in pursuing possible opportunities here. Some of whom I've already heard from. I'm sure we will be hearing from others. So there is a lot of interest in town. The next one, are you in favor of allowing recreational marijuana businesses to operate in Pleasant Ridge? Is the big question, obviously. The most respondents, 38.9%, said no, never allow in Pleasant Ridge. The second choice was maybe allow them in the future, once we know more about the impact of these businesses and our ability to regulate them. So that's kind of the whole way the commission has operated, by doing the opt-out at the present time while we wait to hear more from the state. And then finally, yes, allow them now. No matter what, just allow them. Okay, then understanding the state law may not allow the city to choose which kinds of marijuana businesses we allow. Which types of marijuana businesses would you find appropriate in PR? And again, all that applies. So there are 6 different types of businesses. Not all have revenue, or not revenue generators, business to business kinds of operations. But number one, 78% of all respondents wanted retailer was the way they saw this as far as businesses. Second was safety compliance facility. Third, micro business. Securing transporter was number 4. Processor was number 5. And then a grower cultivating and selling other marijuana was last. Figuring there isn't a whole lot of land and we're not turning the bridge routes into a marijuana grower. Just so you know, if you had any ideas, there may be some. Watch it. Stick with your backyard. And then if the city allows marijuana businesses, how many should we allow to locate here? So again, this is something that we would have some options as far as numbers. We still are not quite sure how you choose the types of businesses or what kinds of control over numbers, but this was the way people looked. 2 was the most often named. 1 and 2 came out for second and first, and 3 and 4 came out somewhat lower. But 2 businesses seemed to be the way people were looking. Finally, understanding that we may not be able to limit where marijuana businesses may locate. What do you think are appropriate locations for marijuana business in PR? We are not loaded with a lot of places, a lot of options. So we gave people the Woodward Corridor as one and Iron Ridge as a second. So 66% of all respondents said Woodward Corridor. 94% decided that Iron Ridge was the place to have them. And then we did have 6% who said other. And before I tell you the one that I found most interesting, a lot of people wanted homes, wanted to have home businesses. That was kind of the general theme of the others. But this was the one that generated the most excitement in my mind.
Perfect.
So June 5th, as we go through our folders, we just kind of, so this was something that was very, very, very important.
They'll be
Talk about a revenue producer for the foundation.
There you go. Just think about it. Oh, wait.
Oh, I lost the next steps.
So we have next steps, but now I can't get to next steps. Oh my God, where am I going? I got into a little presentation. Huh?
Just baby pictures.
What?
I don't know what else.
Okay, I just look through. Yeah. So you loved these before, you'll love them again. There we go. Okay.
Careful.
Oh, no, we got to sit down.
You probably just want to cover that list.
I used to do this. I'm out of practice. Okay, next steps. It doesn't show anymore on the screen. So let me read. State regulations, we're waiting for state regulations to be issued. It's gonna come up. We're expecting late spring or summer, although the Michigan Municipal League just came out with a notice that they may be available as early as June 1st. We're not sure what that means, how detailed they will be. Will these be the final? Because they have to have them before December 6th is the way it's set up now. Obviously, we'll have questions on zoning. We want to watch. We want to, moderate and watch what's going on in other communities. We want to see what kinds of lawsuits may be coming online as things go forward. We want to take our time and really see how this thing gets rolled out. And we do plan to have a town hall. So we will, once we have more information, once we can present more information, we plan to have a town hall, as it says, late summer, probably late August, maybe September. A lot of people are gone in August, so we'll probably move it to September. That'll give us more time to collect more information, know a lot more to present to the community, and then really have a good town hall and get some input. So that's where we are now. We do appreciate all the people who did respond. 400 responses is pretty good in this town, so thank you very much, and we will continue to watch this very carefully and see what goes on in the next few months. Any questions? Well, now that I've screwed that up, I will go back to this. All right. If no more questions, we will move on. Next item is the city manager's report.
I think we've talked about
Oh, good.
Everything germane tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Next item, other business.
I actually have something.
Okay, good.
I did forget one thing. The Memorial Day parade on Memorial Day. At Memorial Day, the ceremony at 9 a.m.
No parade.
No parade,
No
sorry.
parade.
I don't want to oversell
Gotta go
it.
to Ferndale. Gotta go elsewhere for a parade.
Right. And then the other thing I want to talk about, gun safety is near and dear to me as well. So I met with Robert Wittenberg about a month ago to see how I could get involved and help out. He's got a couple of House bills going on right now. 4283 and 4285 he's trying to push through for extreme risk protection order. And I just want to say, I emailed, his name is Graham Feller, representative. If anybody's interested in it, should I say it or should I? GrahamFiller@house.mi.gov. And if you feel this way, if you're so inclined, reach out to him and tell him why you support this, why you think it's a good idea, and why he should pay attention to this bill and keep bringing it up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to give a plug in for the book club for, what are we in? May? This is May already. So this is When the Swan Sings on Hastings. And this is incredible. It's a novel, but it's about the height of Paradise Valley. Longtime residents in this area will recognize Paradise Valley as the location of African American culture and business in the city of Detroit for almost 100 years. Jazz greats like Dizzy Gillespie played there. John Lee Hooker, blues legend, that's where he first gained prominence. But there was also a thriving African American business community there. This is a novel. It takes place and does a fantastic job of recreating something that I had the misfortune of never really knowing, but is a valuable and important part of Detroit history. So that'll be tomorrow, Wednesday, May 15th at the Community Center. When the Swan Sings on Hastings by Thomas Galasso. And then I did also want to put a plug in for June, The Japanese Lover by Isabel Allende. This one takes place a little bit earlier in 1939, but the location is Poland, and in the shadow of the Nazis and the descent into World War II. It's a romantic story. So that'll be for June. That'll be on June 19th. But yeah, tomorrow, When the Swan Sings on Hastings. And lastly, I don't know if anybody else wanted to mention this, mentioning our great state rep again, Robert Wittenberg. He'll also be conducting the Senior Service Summit next Monday, May 20th at 5 to 7 p.m. at Berkeley High School. Our Attorney General, Dana Nessel, will be there as well. Robert puts on incredible events that really benefit our community. If you are interested in senior services, either for yourself or your loved one, or on the issue, this would be a great contact to start at Berkeley High School next Monday from 5 to 7. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Anybody else?
I do.
Amy.
I want to get it out there. We have an election in November 5th. We have a general election. We have 2 city commission seats that are expiring this year, so nominating petitions will be available starting, probably I'll have them ready on Monday the 20th. They are due on July 23rd by 4 o'clock. You need 25 signatures for your petition, no less than 25, no more than 50. And it's pretty quick to collect 25 signatures in town. There's a couple other forms that you need to fill out. I walk you through the whole process, so it's pretty easy. Come in and meet with me, ask me any questions you want about what it's like to be a commissioner, or ask one of the city commission what it's like to be a commissioner. The paperwork is easy. We get you up to the county and your name shows up on the ballot. So anybody that's interested can give me a call. I can walk you through it. Again, they'll be available on the 20th. I'll have them ready on Monday.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. Thank you.
And again, let me reiterate the Foundation Gala this Saturday, and also the Memorial Day at 9 o'clock on the 27th, and the pool opening on the 24th. So
A lot of big stuff
a lot of things
coming
going
down.
on in the next
Yeah.
week and a half or so. If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.